times. And I kind of felt that that was a little bit of an artifice. And she was somebody who came up to me after that engagement party, and she gave me, out of receiving no gifts from anybody for the engagement at all, which is not a typical Colombian tradition. Typically with Colombians, if you're at an engagement party, they give you small gifts. And we got one, and it was from her. And it was a box of silverware, and she leaned over and whispered into my ear, "Thank you." And then gave me this box of silverware. And I later thought that was kind of a strange thing to receive out of all the things you could choose to give somebody for an engagement party. And she gave that to me after my surgery, when I believe a metal stent was placed into my chest region. And that was after I had written a blog post when I was, I think when I was with Alvaro at the time. I wrote a blog post called How to Eat a Heart. Something about how to eat a heart. And then I just knew when she gave me the silverware, it wasn't like I was making a, I know it sounds like you could put these two unrelated things together, and it sounds like, quote unquote, a sign of paranoid schizophrenia, you know, bringing unrelated ideas together or something like that, which is sometimes a trait if you combine it with many other traits which are required in order to make that diagnosis. You know, you could say that that is a symptom or sign of such a thing. But you could also take two seemingly unrelated ideas and know how they work together and know it by intuition. Some people know it because they're psychic. I'm not psychic, and I can hardly ever confirm that the instincts that I have are right, because I think sometimes probably I'm wrong, and I think sometimes I am right. However, I knew after I realized when we got the silverware, I knew that it was in reference to that post I had made about how to eat a heart. Oh, with silverware, thanks. That's how you eat one, not with your fingers, you know. With silverware. And those people already knew that I had voided the marriage license. And again, it wasn't in my mind to not go through with it at all. I knew that there were different times when I could apply for it again, you know, and at some point I did tell him. Well, I told him later. But the so as I was saying, at some point I knew that I could redo that, but what I needed is I needed a little bit more time to just watch things and see how people were reacting, see how he was treating me, and if he's really living up to these promises that he's made. Because I only, in some ways, probably I look like a very tolerant person, because I said, you know, make sure this is what you want to do before you do it. So I gave him a lot of slack and leeway. I gave him sort of the go-ahead to even be with other women if he felt it was absolutely necessary in order to figure something out and know that this is what he wanted to do. I mean, it wasn't exactly that, but it was sort of a well, we're not engaged yet, but when we are, then I expect a firm commitment. So I wanted him to be sure. And then the thing is no one should mistake my unjealous nature, the fact that I can admire other people and other women and not feel jealous, and the fact that I believe in giving people freedom to figure out what they need for themselves. No one should mistake that for being a doormat, or somebody to walk over, or that is not going to hold firm to the agreements that have been made. And some people view, for example, marriage as a romantic idea. Other people view it as a contractual agreement. For me, once we were engaged, that was a binding contractual agreement, and it was an emotional romantic thing. However, I do not lose sight of the fact that we have agreed to something. And if you don't hold up to your end of the deal, you don't hold up to your promises, you're not faithful, you're not loyal to me, you humiliate me in any way, don't think that I'm going to be that nice, soft person who says, figure out what you need for yourself. Because I already gave you that time to figure out what you need for yourself, and if you didn't figure it out, then that time was already expired. So, when it comes to things like that, I mean what I say. And I was even willing, in the absence of concrete evidence and with a couple of other ideas that possibly it could work out, I was willing to let it go along. I needed a separation, but willing to let it have a little more time and see if something looked like I could have more confidence, fuller confidence in what was happening. So I didn't throw it out completely, but I expected him, if he had weakened my trust in any way, I expected to see him work at rebuilding that and show me. And what did he didn't show me that. When eventually I did tell him that I wanted him to leave the house. I didn't break up with him like permanently forever, but I told him to leave the house that we were staying at. Because the second time, aside from the woman wearing the little pantsuit, who was sort of like a anyway, aside from that woman and seeing right through her and seeing how self-aware she was and how she wanted to stage things correctly for herself, the other woman who I saw that was able to tap right into his male ego and tried to seduce him by knowing what might soften his what might meet the male need for appreciation or approval and respect and admiration, you know, and help and then conversely make her appear to be feminine, a little bit weaker, and that he's so much stronger and manly for helping her, that kind of a thing. The second person that I saw doing that, not to say that there were not other people, was our house that once we were finally over in Wenatchee, was the woman that we were staying with, Michael Holt. And I saw that she was seducing my fiance right there in front of me. She gave him this look in her eye, asked him to help her move some things and help her work on her house. But the way she asked him to help her move things was that she was so weak. And she couldn't do it. She was beside herself with distress. You know, the damsel in distress with the house that needs work, and can you help me, house helper? You know, it's like kind of like the carpenter version of the milkman that comes around. Thanks for the milk. Can you stay for tea? Well, she wanted him to like move boards around for her and pots and heavy things, and then, you know, sweep her off of her feet after, you know, he had finished feeling very good about himself for flexing his muscle a little bit. You know, so I'm not stupid. I can see, you can see exactly right through her. And the other thing she did is she started cooking for him and having dinner with him while I was taking a nap. I mean, there were a couple times I had to take a nap because I was exhausted from all the things I was trying to do in Wenatchee. I got up one time, opened the door, and I'm like, what's going on? She tried to shut the door back on me. Go finish your nap. She actually literally said to me, why don't you go finish your nap? Why don't you go finish your nap? Okay, and her shirt is only about 5 inches lower than it was the last time I looked at her. And she's got 2 more inches of makeup on her face, and her hair is curled and coiffed, and she's batting her eyelashes at him, and cooking for him, making him, you know, demonstrating again her womanly skills. And she seduced him. And then she pointed out all of her help and how she worked at her pictures of herself surrounded by children again. Oh, I mean, give me a break. Sexy Mother Teresa. It's what every man wants. I mean, at least that's what they decided, that's what he wanted. And so she was the other woman that I could see right through right away, and I knew that she was calculating this. It wasn't like she was unconsciously cute. I mean, there are people who are unconsciously drawing the attention of somebody, and it's not even their fault. I mean, who cares if you flirt? If you consciously draw someone's attention, that's great. And if you know how to do it and do it really well, in some ways, and it's mutual and the person's free to like you, then that's fine. And, you know, if it just kind of comes naturally. And there are people who are unconsciously drawing attention to themselves and they don't even realize it. And sometimes people get really jealous of those individuals because that's like the Snow White that, you know, that gets a hit put on her because she doesn't realize whose attention she's drawing, but there's jealousy, you know, in the background. But with Michael Holt, it was another situation of more of a calculated seduction, of trying to tap. I mean, I saw it. I saw it in her eyes, and I saw it on her face, and it was the exact same kind of thing that this woman from Colombia was doing at her engagement party by surrounding herself with all the little children. Because, you know, there must be a file on him somewhere. There's probably a file on Alvaro Pardo, much to his shock. He probably has a lot of documentation written up about him that he doesn't even know about. You know, the Flathead file. The CIA's Flathead file, maybe. Because, you know, babies who are left in their crib for a really long time and not given a lot of love and affection, sometimes they get a sort of a flat head when they get older. The back of their heads are sort of flatter. So, you know, with all I know about the CIA, they would psychologically try to have that happen to somebody and condition them, and then try to foster this big, I need a mother, I need a woman who's like a really soft, caring mother. And that's the entire whole way to get to their psyche. I mean, it's not like this government has not been trying to figure people out and psychoanalyze them and then trying to nail them, to work for them, to do favors for them, and to have them entrapped or seduced by whoever they want. So that was, you know, I was kind of skipping ahead to another example of what some of these people were doing. But when I was at that engagement party, that was after I was in the hospital and I'd had the surgery. And I just know that woman, the Colombian woman, she knew what had happened to me in surgery, and she gave me that box of silverware as an inside joke about how to eat a heart. And there were people who were not good people that have been connected to United States people too, and other countries. And and then it was terrible. This one little girl threw up at the engagement party. There are a couple people who looked like they were happy, and maybe were totally clueless. Nobody filled them in on really what was going on and some of the animosity. And I think some people were maybe worried, well, what is she really going to do? Is she going to get